Hey, everyone. You guys sent in some really interesting articles about open carry in the Ninth Circuit Court, and let me tell you, after listening to that Legal Brief podcast,
Uh-huh.
this is a lot bigger than I initially thought. We're going to take a deep dive into this court ruling because it could actually change gun laws where you live.
Yeah, for sure. This ruling is it's definitely a big deal. I mean, we're talking to the Ninth Circuit, which covers some pretty anti-gun states, right? Like California, Hawaii. And they've basically said that open carry is protected by the Second Amendment.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, right? Considering their history with gun control.
Totally. It's a pretty big shift. It all started with a guy in Hawaii, George Young, who wasn't allowed to open carry a gun. He sued the state, and, well, that lawsuit ended up leading to this huge decision.
Okay, so Hawaii, I know they have some pretty strict gun laws already, right?
Oh, yeah, they're super strict. They've got all kinds of laws about who can own a gun, how you can transport it, and getting a license to carry open or concealed, forget about it. It's super hard.
So they really, really don't want people carrying guns around.
Yeah, pretty much. They've made it really difficult for, everyday people to legally carry a gun, even if it's for self-defense.
But Young argued that those laws violate his Second Amendment rights, and the Ninth Circuit actually agreed with him.
They did, yeah. What's interesting is they really looked closely at the Second Amendment. They focused on that phrase, bear arms, and they connected it directly to the right to open carry.
So they really dug deep into the meaning of the Second Amendment.
Oh, yeah. And they referenced those big Supreme Court cases like Heller and McDonald, those cases that said people have the right to own a gun for self-defense. Well, now the Ninth Circuit's saying that right includes carrying a gun outside your home.
Wow, so they're expanding the right to bear arms beyond just owning a gun at home.
Exactly. In fact, they even said that bear suggests a right to carry for confrontation. They're basically saying you have the right to have a gun ready for self-defense when you're out in public.
That's a bold statement.
Mm-hmm.
But they must have needed some pretty strong evidence to back that up, right?
Totally. That's where the history part gets really interesting. They looked at all sorts of historical stuff. Like, they even looked at stuff written by Sir William Blackstone. They wanted to figure out how the founding fathers thought about the right to bear arms.
So they were trying to, get inside the minds of the founding fathers.
Yeah, exactly. They also examined state laws from the 1800s and laws that came after the Civil War. And they found that open carry was pretty consistently supported throughout history. They even said there was a single American voice in support of the right to open carry for self-defense, which is, a pretty compelling argument.
Wow, that's fascinating. But I'm sure there were people who didn't agree with their decision, right? I mean, not everyone agrees on how to interpret the Second Amendment.
Right, of course. Some people totally disagreed. In fact, there was a dissenting opinion that criticized how the court interpreted those historical laws.
So how did the court address that dissenting opinion?
They addressed it directly. For instance, some people argued that old laws requiring bonds for people carrying guns were meant to restrict gun ownership, but the court pushed back on that. They said those laws actually had safeguards in place to prevent abuse.
So they were making it clear that they were trying to understand the historical context, not just blindly applying Old English laws to America today.
Exactly. They wanted to be really clear about that. And they also talked about something called strict scrutiny. They decided to apply strict scrutiny to this case.
Okay, now I got to ask, what's strict scrutiny? Because I'm not a lawyer.
It's the highest level of judicial review. So basically, they're saying that the right to open carry is a really, really important right, like a fundamental right that needs serious protection.
Wow, so this is a big deal to them, huh?
Oh, yeah, huge. And this strict scrutiny thing, well, it means the government can't just restrict open carry all willy-nilly. They're saying the right to carry a gun for self-defense in public, it's not just for certain jobs or the militia, it's for everyone.
Okay, so the court's saying the government can't just, easily restrict open carry. But what about states with super strict gun laws? Like California, what are they going to do? Just throw their hands up and say, okay, everyone can open carry now.
Well, probably not. The county that lost this case, they have a couple of options. They could ask for something called an en banc hearing. That means the whole Ninth Circuit, all the judges, not just those three, would get to look at the decision.
Ah, okay. So it'd be like starting over, but with a whole bunch of new judges. Could they reverse the original ruling?
Yeah, they could. It's possible. But gotta remember, the Ninth Circuit is already pretty liberal, so, it's not a sure thing for the county. Their other option would be to appeal to the Supreme Court.
Whoa, okay. Supreme Court, that's the big leagues, right? They decide all the big constitutional stuff.
Exactly. And if it went to the Supreme Court, their decision would affect the whole country, not just the Ninth Circuit. But there's no guarantee the Supreme Court would even take the case. They're pretty picky about what they hear.
So what if, like, the Supreme Court says, nope, not interested, or the county just, gives up? Does that mean this ruling just stands and everyone in the Ninth Circuit can open carry?
Yeah, most likely that's what would happen. And that's where things get really interesting. Like, how are states like California going to react? They're known for being tough on guns. Are they going to try to find loopholes or ways to, like, get around the ruling?
Yeah, I can just imagine lawmakers scrambling, trying to figure out how to make this work with their current gun laws.
It's a big challenge for them. And this whole thing could even lead to more lawsuits, right? People might start challenging other gun control laws, not just in the Ninth Circuit, but all over. It's like a ripple effect.
Man, this makes you think.
Yeah.
It's not just about, like, laws and stuff. It's about people's safety, like their right to protect themselves. How do you balance those things?
Right. It's a really tough question. This ruling goes right to the heart of the whole gun control debate.
Yeah.
You've got the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, but then you've got to keep people safe from, gun violence.
And this case just throws a wrench in everything. For so long, it's been all about stricter gun control, but this ruling seems to be going the other way.
It is. It's a win for gun rights advocates. It kind of reinforces the idea that the Second Amendment is about carrying a gun in public, not just having one at home. And it definitely raises a lot of questions for states that want to restrict that right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Probably going to be pretty intense, both in the courts and in, state legislatures.
Definitely. This whole issue, it's complicated. People have strong opinions on both sides. And this ruling, well, it's not the end. It's just like a new chapter in this whole gun rights debate in America.
So out of everything, what stands out to you the most about this case? Like, what really grabbed your attention?
Honestly, it's that historical analysis. The way the court went back and looked at all those old texts and laws to support their take on the Second Amendment, that's pretty fascinating. It kind of adds this whole other layer to the argument,
Mm-hmm.
Makes you think about how our understanding of constitutional rights has changed over time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like they're saying, hey, let's go back to the beginning, back to the founding fathers and see what they really meant. It's interesting to think about how their ideas apply today with all the different types of guns and all the, complicated issues we face.
Right. And that's really important. We can't just read the Second Amendment and say, okay, this is what it means. We have to think about the context, how interpretations have changed.
It's like our understanding of rights. It's not set in stone, it's always evolving. And sometimes that evolution leads to, surprising results like this ruling.
Totally. It shows how much tension there is between individual rights and public safety. And that tension, well, it's not just about guns. It's a part of so many debates in our society.
Yeah, this ruling really forces us to think about that.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you've got the right to own a gun.
Yeah.
On the other, you have to make sure communities are safe.
It's a tricky balance, and there are no easy answers. But that's what makes these deep dives so interesting. We're not just skimming the surface, We're getting into the nitty-gritty, looking at all sides, and challenging our own ideas.
I agree. And this ruling definitely challenges some of the assumptions we had about the Ninth Circuit, Like, we thought they were always anti-gun. But this shows that even the most predictable legal landscapes can change in ways you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, that's what's cool about the law. It's always changing, adapting to new interpretations and, the changing world around us.
Okay, I think we need a quick break here. We've covered a lot, and I need a minute to process all this.
Yeah, me too. Lots to unpack here.
We'll be back in a sec to wrap things up and leave you with something to think about as you keep exploring this whole issue. All right, so we're back, and I'm still kind of reeling from all this. Like, this ruling could really impact gun laws all across the country, not just in the Ninth Circuit.
Yeah, it could be a real game changer. This could encourage gun rights groups to challenge other gun control laws. Like, what about bans on assault weapons or those limits on how many bullets a magazine can hold?
Yeah, those are like the next big targets, right?
Yeah.
So this ruling could be the first domino, and then everything else starts falling. And it's not just lawsuits, right? I mean, what about other states? Could this ruling, inspire them to relax their gun laws?
Oh, for sure. Especially in states where people are already pretty pro-gun. We could see some states going one way with looser laws while others stick with stricter ones.
Man, that'd be a mess, right? Like, imagine driving across the country, trying to keep track of all the different gun laws in every state. It'd be so confusing and probably cause all kinds of legal problems.
Exactly. We could end up with this patchwork of gun laws all over the country. And it's funny because for years it seemed like everyone was talking about stricter gun control, but this ruling goes in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift in the conversation, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. This could be a major turning point in the whole gun rights debate.
I think the most interesting thing about this whole case is that historical deep dive the court did. It
Yeah.
makes you realize that the Second Amendment, it's not just some words on paper. It has to be interpreted, reinterpreted as society changes and our understanding of rights changes too.
Right. That's an important point. By looking at those old texts and legal decisions, the court is basically saying that our understanding of constitutional rights isn't like set in stone. It changes over time.
Mm.
And sometimes those changes lead to results we wouldn't expect, like this Ninth Circuit ruling.
So the big question now is what happens next? Is this the start of a nationwide movement for more gun rights? Or will it just be limited to the Ninth Circuit? Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Will other courts follow the Ninth Circuit? Will state legislatures start changing their laws? This ruling has opened up a whole new chapter in the gun rights debate, and there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of potential for things to change.
That's why I love these deep dives. We started with just one court case, and now we're talking about potential changes to gun laws all over the country, and even about how we interpret the Constitution.
It really shows how even something that seems like an isolated event can have huge consequences. And it reminds us to really think critically, to look deeper and consider all sides of an issue, especially a complicated one like this.
So we've looked at the legal arguments, the history, the potential impact of this ruling. But at the end of the day, it's up to each of us to decide what we think about this ruling and what it means for gun rights in America.
Exactly. We've laid it all out for you, and now it's your turn to form your own opinions and get involved in this important debate.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'll leave you with one final thought. The legal landscape can change quickly and sometimes in surprising ways, so stay informed, stay engaged, and keep sending us those articles. We'll be here to help you understand it all. Thanks for joining us.